In every generation, God raises builders who carry a distinct kingdom assignment. These are not ordinary planners, organizers, or visionaries. They are spiritual architects entrusted with establishing the foundations of God's work in the earth. Their calling reflects the meaning of Bana in Strong's H1129, which describes building, establishing, repairing, and securing what God intends to endure from one generation to another. Just as God positioned Joseph in Egypt to prepare Goshen, the Lord is again awakening men and women who can discern the times, like the sons of Issachar in 1 Chronicles 12, verse 32. Recognize the difference between Egypt's systems and the kingdom's blueprint and build according to divine instruction. They walk with the revelation of Ephesians 2 verse 20, knowing that the household of God is built on the foundation of apostles and prophets, with Christ himself as the chief cornerstone. And they embrace the mandate of Isaiah 58 verse 12, to be repairers of the breach and restorers of paths to dwell in. The calling of these builders aligns perfectly with the book of Acts. Acts reveals the original model for kingdom infrastructure, a spirit-led community that operated according to God's pattern rather than the systems of Rome or the traditions of religious leaders. When the Holy Spirit came in power in Acts 1 verse 8, the first kingdom infrastructure was birthed, one marked by teaching, prayer, fellowship, generosity, miracles, and unity, as seen in Acts 2 verses 42 to 47. Far more than a gathering of believers, the early church functioned as a spiritual Goshen, a place set apart to preserve, strengthen, and mobilize God's people. Like the Strong's understanding of Bana in Strong's H1129, the apostles built, established, and fortified structures that could endure persecution, scattering, political pressure, and spiritual warfare. Cities such as Antioch became apostolic hubs, places of teaching, prophetic ministry, and sending, where believers could mature and be launched into their assignments. This is the same work God is calling kingdom builders to restore today. Environments where his presence, wisdom, and governance can dwell, and where his people can be equipped for the advancing kingdom. This building mandate aligns just as strongly with the end times. Jesus warned in Matthew 24 verses 6 to 14 that wars, lawlessness, deception, and cold love would increase. But at the same time, the gospel of the kingdom would be preached in all nations before the end comes. This dual reality of shaking and harvest requires prepared people and prepared structures. Isaiah 60 verses 1 to 3 describes deep darkness covering the earth while God's light rises upon his people, and that light must rest on established, fortified communities. The end times demand the endurance Jesus spoke of in Matthew 24 verse 13. And endurance requires more than zeal. It requires infrastructure. It requires Goshen. Revelation 12 verse 6 describes a place prepared by God for the woman, a symbolic picture of divine refuge and supernatural provision in a time of intense pressure. This mirrors the original Goshen in Exodus 8 verse 22. Every end-time prophecy that speaks of shaking also speaks of preparation, positioning, and preservation. Builders called to kingdom infrastructure understand this. They recognize that the collapsing system described in 2 Timothy 3 verses 1 to 5 require an alternative kingdom order. They know that false prophets and deception mentioned in Matthew 24 verse 24 cannot be resisted by a scattered, unprepared church. They see the need for places where believers can grow in truth, be discipled in righteousness, operate in spiritual gifts, walk in generosity, and be protected from the cultural and spiritual storms of the age. They also recognize the need for containers that can hold the outpouring described in Joel 2 verses 28 to 32. Outpouring demands structure. Revival demands systems. Awakening demands leadership and organization so that the harvest is not scattered or lost. This is why God is raising kingdom builders in this generation. They are called to construct spiritual and practical Goshen-like communities, apostolic hubs, safe places, and end-time infrastructures that will carry the remnant through the shaking and prepare them for the return of the King. Their work is generational, territorial, and prophetic. It stands as a visible witness of God's order in a world overcome by instability and deception. In the pattern of Acts and in fulfillment of end-time prophecy, these builders are being equipped to establish spaces where God's presence, wisdom, and governance can dwell until the kingdom of the Lord is made manifest in all the earth. Subscribe to Goshen Apostolic Institute for teachings that equip end-time leaders, watchmen, prophetic voices, and kingdom builders.